future. Okay.
Got it. Now recording. Thank you so much, Chelsey, for having me here. I'm really excited to talk about one of my favorite topics with you, and you know that topic, of course, lucid dreaming.
Yeah, I'm happy to do this, and I look forward to maybe doing some more. So I think this is going to be very successful. And it's a popular topic that everyone, it's eye-catching, but people know what it is and they're experiencing it in some way, shape, or form. So there's a lot of organic curiosity for it too. Um, so I'm excited
Absolutely.
for that.
There are so many different ways that we can use it, not just for fun, but for personal development, as well as for growing spiritually, due to simply experiencing more in these altered states of consciousness. Something that I'm noticing after years of practice is that the more we experience through these altered states, it opens us up to being able to believe in more because we're experiencing more. So our perception of things can kind of change and our beliefs change and we grow.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite parts of the practice.
It's my favorite part too. It definitely challenges belief systems and concepts of reality a little bit. So I love the metaphysical aspects of lucid dreaming, how it's not always internally exploring ourselves, but leading into even like the astral projecting and getting into other aspects of just exploration.
Absolutely. A question that I've heard so many times over and over again, probably 500 times or more now, is what is the difference between lucid dreaming, astral projection, and out of body experiences? Now, I can only speak on this topic from my own personal beliefs, and I could very well not be correct. I'm just speaking from what I have experienced. But my belief on that topic is that similar to how water, ice, and steam are the same but different, astral projection, out of body experiences, and lucid dreaming are the same but different. Let's look at water, for example. At its core, it is H2O. It doesn't matter if it's steam in the form of ice or the water, it is still water, H2O. So I think that it is similar here. We have lucid dreaming, astral projection, and out of body experiences. They're all different, but the same, just varying and taking on different forms. The ingredient, though, is consciousness, in my opinion.
Mm,
Consciousness is just taking on different forms and having different experiences.
I love that. That's perfect.
That's my analogy there, and that's really just how I feel about it. When I practice wake initiated lucid dreaming techniques, in my mind, I'm also practicing astral projection techniques because the techniques will get you to that same space, a projection of your consciousness, whether you believe it is external, a projection, or if it's internal, a lucid dream. I'm noticing that that space is almost identical, just taking on different forms from time to time.
Yeah. Something I always say is I break it down into two different layers, which I know Carl Jung speaks of like layers of consciousness, where you have your
Love that
internal
metaphor.
experiences that are, I consider your home base or within you, and you could lucidly explore yourself on a very intimate level, if it be, wanting to know your own mechanics, to explore just having fun. But then there's this external experience, which is like walking out of the house or out the front door, and then you're kind of exploring like maybe space, anything kind of outside of the time and reason of reality a little bit. Uh, it's cool.
Absolutely. When we're projecting to or having a wake initiated lucid dream, we can have different perceptions of the experience. Like one individual may project and they might be floating up on the room and they're looking down at their body. Somebody else may not see their body at all. Some individuals may enter more of like a visionary state where they have no body and they are just being shown. This altered state of consciousness can take on a variety of different forms.
Yeah, That's the cool part. See, I've experienced the one where you're looking at your body or hovering like on your bedroom ceiling, and it's like this, but I've experienced it like out in space and having guides or experiencing something that's just beyond the reality that obviously like I could try to describe. But I've had the ones where I'm like literally just lingering on my bedroom ceiling, and I remember going back into my body or laying back down into my body and stuff, and it's fun.
I'm curious, when you're out of body, do you see any kind of cord? Because I do not, and just some people do report seeing a silver cord, and just nope, me neither. You don't, I can tell.
I
Uh,
haven't. No, but that's interesting. And I
me
mean, I
neither.
could see how that
No
would
cord.
be.
I think that what it likely comes down to there is that if you believe that you are likely or you should see the cord, you're more likely to see it. If you've
Yeah.
never heard of the chord before, you're likely not going to see the chord. It all probably falls back to belief system and expectation. If you're expecting to see the chord before you look, you're likely to probably see it, I'm sure. But if there's no expectation, then it's likely not to be there.
Yeah, that would make sense. It's kind of within your own perception of it. So Cindy just asked a question, and this is a good one for beginning. How do you begin lucid dreaming?
How do you begin lucid dreaming? That is a fantastic question. And I personally
Hmm.
feel like there's probably 500 different ways I could answer that question. But let's just start with it is a practice of mindfulness. Try to be more aware of your consciousness throughout the day. Start to begin to sharpen your intention to lucid dream. Think about that you want to lucid dream, and more than just thinking about you want to, start to create a knowing that you will. Try to create an expectation that you are going to lucid dream. You want to will the experience to happen. There are so many different techniques that you can try, but when it comes down to it, from my point of view, there is only two main techniques: direct and indirect. And we're going to cover that in a moment. Just some more beginner tips, though. Of course, dream journaling is very important in writing down your dreams, reality checks throughout the day, whether it's trying to push your finger through your hand or jump and try to manipulate gravity, try to change colors of objects. You might think you're a crazy person doing exercises like this, but if you were to look away and look at something and it's red and you look back and then you're thinking and expecting it to be purple and you look back and you're going back and forth and all of a sudden that color changes, the light bulb of lucidity can come on. So you want to start to create opportunities for you to become lucid through actions that you take during the day: reality checks, visualization, mindfulness. If you are or aren't artistic, drawing. It doesn't matter your level of artistic skills. My dream journal when I was younger just looked absolutely ferocious, but it didn't mean I'm taking time for the practice and I'm putting things down. Even if I'm pretty much just drawing stick figures at this point, I know that I am doing it with an intention to lucid dream.
I
Take
love
time, at least an hour before bed, to get away from this right here, poisonous LED lights that throw off our circadian rhythm. They burn away our melatonin levels. They make it hard to sleep. Really, they can lead to insomnia, let alone dreaming. So, by taking time to get away from artificial light and just to set the mood, be with your thoughts, sharpen your intention. Think about what you want to experience while you are dreaming. Prior to dreaming, daydreaming is really important for lucid dreaming, and I'm going to talk about that as well. But those are just some beginners' tips. I'm actually working on a guide right now that has 50 different tips, tricks, and techniques for lucid dreaming all in one. And I'm going to be releasing that soon on my Etsy page at Mac Randall Acres if anybody wants to check that out.
Yeah, make sure you put the link in the chat too, or even on afterwards, and we could try to make sure that's there. No, I love how you were saying, so first off with the lights, it's funny. I hate artificial light and it just bothers my eyes. I never realized it affected melatonin, which I do a lot of studies on the pineal gland with the DMT, melatonin, and the protein that's produced. But
Yeah,
that's a really interesting side note. Another thing I like to suggest with people is if you want to have intentions of lucid dreaming, or even maybe not lucid dreaming, but if you want to have an intention of a certain experience while you're dreaming, at least try to fall asleep while meditating, like while you're laying down. Sometimes that's a good way to bring consciousness to the space with more awareness too. Um,
absolutely.
yeah, that's so that's kind of like my one of my go-tos. But I think that's because through my own personal experiences, I used to do that. So it's like I can only suggest from my personal experiences where I feel you have
That's
a
exactly what
whole
I'm doing
book
right
worth.
now. I'm still though just talking about my experiences and just what I have learned, just my opinion really when I speak.
Yeah,
So,
that's
yeah.
cool.
Now,
Th-
how about we discuss indirect and direct techniques? When it comes down to it, there are probably an unlimited amount of different ways that we can become lucid. There are dozens and hundreds, if not 1,000 different techniques.
mhm.
But there's also two main core techniques, direct and indirect. Now, a direct technique, for example, would be like a wild style lucid dream or an astral projection. There is no lapse in our consciousness. We are not falling asleep first and then the dream is starting. We are there for the creation of the experience. We are going directly into this altered state of consciousness, opposed to indirect. Indirect happens when you become aware in the dream after it has already started, usually through reality checks, dream
Yeah.
sign, just recognizing oddities within the dream.
Yeah. And I've noticed sometimes there's something that dramatic could happen or catches your attention and it can snap you lucid. So that would be more of an indirect, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. That would be an indirect approach. You are becoming aware in the experience after it has already started. The experience was there before you were conscious, opposed to you bringing your consciousness into the experience at the start of it.
Love it. So then a more direct even would be so it's like bring in meditation a little bit. People who want to maybe have an out of body experience while they're awake meditating. Um, that would be a more direct.
That would be a very direct approach.
Yeah.
Always
Impressive
much
too.
more. It is very impressive to do that and significantly more hard to project your
I can't
consciousness
do it.
meditation while awake. While I have had countless experiences, maybe 1,000 or more, I have only had maybe two or three where I was not asleep or just it was the daytime and I was in deep meditation.
Mhm.
Usually, when I am having my experiences, I am capturing the best time to be practicing in the middle of the night at the end of natural sleep cycles. So, like 4 to 5 hours into sleep, having an alarm go off or training myself to wake up in the middle of the night and start to think about lucid dreaming techniques. A couple hours after sleep, that really is the holy grail hour.
Yeah, and I did it on accident because I have kids and they're toddlers now, but when they were newborns, I was constantly being woken up from my sleep to stop for a few minutes, take care of them, and go back to bed. And I've noticed that that was something that was actually triggering more of a lucidity because I was already woke up consciousness and then went back to sleep. And it was
Absolutely.
happening way more often at those
What we're
years.
referring to there is wake back to bed, lucid dreaming, waking up after a couple hours of sleep and having time to sharpen your intention. Think about what you want to experience. Think about how you're going to go about it. Meditate a bit, get pumped up, get amped, really feel good about it, and then
Mhm.
get back into bed. Your chances will be significantly elevated doing that.
Yeah, and some people enjoy trying to continue a dream. So when they wake up on accident, they're like, "Oh man, I loved that dream. I want to go back to it." And some people really find a lot of
Okay,
success with that.
I'm one of those people right here.
Yeah, I've done it too. It's fun. And it's weird because so like I've always noticed sometimes so I've had shared experiences. So like my kids co-sleep with me, right? And like early morning, 4 or 5 in the morning where you wake up and then you fall back asleep where it gets very like out of body kind of, but it's so maybe you have better like definition of this. I had a dream once where I had woken up, fallen back asleep. My son came into bed and there was a dream where he was in it and we were at a kitchen counter and he was playing with Legos and I was not quite lucid because I couldn't control what I was doing, but I somehow like smacked his Legos off the counter. I'm a
Oh,
jerk. And
wow.
in real life, he got mad and smacked me and told me I was bad. Uh, yeah. And that's happened a couple times with him and I where we've had shared dreams
That
and
is
I
really
know
interesting.
it's real because his reaction is physical and he gets mad at
I
me.
believe it. There are just some things that we simply cannot explain or understand. I think that that's one of those things.
Yeah,
It's
it's
really cool
interesting.
though.
I always say it's more of a mass collective experience where you're kind of, you know, when people want to share. So you think of it as like astral projecting to each other. People will practice that more common, but having the lucidity aspect, I don't know, it gets interesting, but there's a lot going on there.
There sure is, and I have had a fair amount of experience with that, especially when I was younger, practicing shared dreaming with other dreamers. Something that I have noticed is that when this is done, individuals can have similar experiences, yes, but those experiences tend to vary a little bit. They're not the same experience
Yeah.
from practitioner to practitioner. It's like we each have had our own version of that experience.
That's kind of what metaphysics is too. When people, have metaphysical experiences, they tend to be in their own perception, but they're at the core, it's still the same experience. So that would still make sense.
I agree.
It gets fun.
Me
Um,
too.
okay, so I'll let you continue on, or unless we want to stop and
Been a good
ask
topic.
anyone questions or
Yeah, sure. Let's open up. Let's just hold off for a second, see if any questions pop up. I'm going to take a sip of the
yeah.
last of my water. I
Also,
had to sacrifice my air conditioner and my dehumidifier for clean audio. So I'm
oh,
a little bit.
yeah, you're fine. So does anyone here, I know it's only a couple of you, but have an experience that you think might be lucid around a body that you would want to share or bring to the table by chance? You can type it if you want to. That's fine.
Definitely. And when that comes up, we can respond
Yeah.
to it. Until then, I think that it would be beneficial to talk about my favorite direct technique and some of my favorite indirect techniques.
All right, let's hear them.
Starting with the indirect techniques, becoming aware in the dream after it has already started. Let's talk about dream signs and triggers for lucidity, things that we can recognize to make that light bulb of lucidity come on, and for us to really be like, wait a minute, I better stop to question this.
Oh yeah, I've had
So,
plenty of those, but unintentionally though, but yeah.
absolutely. Now, the best dream signs and lucidity triggers, in my experience, tend to be people, places, and things that were once a part of our lives that no longer are. It could be an old room from childhood, it could be your first job, it could be so many different things along those lines. It could be the backyard of your childhood home. It could be a tree house, just something that was once a part of your life and no longer is. It could even be a person who has passed away. So, throughout the day, while you are strengthening your intentions to lucid dream, you want to visualize yourself there in these spaces or create a place to go back to within your mind. Let's use one of my first jobs, for example. Repeatedly throughout the day, I will go back there in my mind and visualize that I am at Moore Sussex Pet Supply, there cleaning the cages, and I am visualizing myself becoming lucid in this space, at this place. I am training myself to recognize when this happens in a dream while I am awake. So I'm thinking about old jobs, old friends, individuals that have passed away that perhaps I would like to see in a dream. I'm thinking about these triggers while awake and expecting to see them while asleep and become aware.
Yeah, that makes sense. I see those a lot in dream analysis. So that's a good one.
Triggers can be different from person to person. Really, just think back and you can create your own. Just reoccurring dreams also make great triggers. So if you already have a reoccurring dream about being back at an old house or an old house, back in school, maybe you're in fourth grade, you're sitting there in your desk, bring yourself back there in your mind while you are awake and expect to become lucid.
Nice.
It's almost
So,
like we are cultivating the experience while we are awake. We are incubating the lucid dream while we are awake with our thoughts through visualization and belief. Then, when we fall asleep, and let's say I recognize I'm in my fourth grade class because I have been thinking about it on and off all day long and thinking about how this is a trigger for lucidity, you are so much more likely to capture that moment and be like, oh my God, here I am. I really am dreaming right now. Wait a minute. I haven't been in school in 20 years. Oh, there's him and her, and I can't remember his name, but there he is, so vivid. It's
yeah.
amazing sometimes. It's like our conscious mind can forget so many things, but
Mhm.
the unconscious mind, it like has the memory of an elephant. It does not forget. I'm always fascinated at seeing faces of my classmates going back like 20 years in my dreams and just being like, wow, there you are. It's amazing how our subconscious mind holds and stores all of that information.
It's like a computer. I always say it's a file cabinet. It's always in the file cabinet. And you just have to learn to pull it out.
Exactly, it's always in the file cabinet. And I believe that there is a spiritual term for that, the Akashic records, the great
Yeah.
library, the library within us that contains all of our experiences and all of our memories. And through lucid dreaming, we can actually tap into that and draw from that library and remember things that we have forgotten.
Yeah. That's funny because I have another workshop next month with Akashic Records and Dreams.
That's some really great synchronicity right there.
Yeah, it's a good one. And but I've seen it come up. So we usually experience a lot of stuff from this life, but it is not uncommon to experience and have dreams pulled up from past lives too. So it gets very interesting. So it is a file cabinet, Akashic Records. It's all stored within us, and it's there. Uh,
Absolutely. Before I go on to talking about my favorite direct techniques, I want to talk a little bit more about indirect techniques and different reality checks and other ways to become lucid in the dream after it has already started. So let's talk about reality checks a little bit more and training ourselves to recognize clocks. Clocks are so powerful for lucid dreamers. They really are, especially with the look away, look back reality check. If you train yourself every time you see a clock in person to think about your practice with lucid dreaming, it's going to lure your mind back to the practice every time you see that clock, and then start to think about reality checks and start to question if you are dreaming, and try to change the time of the clock through sheer will, belief, expectation, anticipation, and trusting in yourself. Try to create this strong knowing. Okay, it's 3 o'clock. Let me look away. Is it 5 o'clock? No, but it's going to be 5 o'clock now. Look away and back, and really sharpen your belief in that you're going to change the time of the clock. Now, when you're awake, of course, that's not really going to happen, but through training and practice and repetition, when you start to see clocks in your dreams, you're going to start to think, wait a minute, I was supposed to do something and think about something. I was supposed to question something. Huh. It gets your gears spinning, and then you can start to put the little puzzle pieces together, really, to the realization that you are dreaming.
Yeah, it's almost like the movie Inception after a while a bit. It becomes a
Absolutely. There are
sport.
many different reality checks. Like I said, pushing your finger through your hand is a classical one. Looking at any object, really, not just clocks, and then looking away and expecting it to either change or even change colors is another really great reality check. And if you are alone, definitely not in public because you will look like you're batshit crazy, is the manipulation of gravity reality check, where you can just try to jump up and expect that you will float or fall back down really slow. That is one of my favorite reality checks, and it's one of my go tos to use after I become lucid to really solidify the fact that I am dreaming. Most of the time, when I'm lucid, it is through wild style lucid dreaming and I'm in my room. So I'll just jump up in my room and start to either levitate or fall back down slowly. And that's just a dead giveaway that I am definitely dreaming.
That's so cool. See, I've always, so for me, when I'm lucid dreaming, I always notice that I just know I'm dreaming. And it's never really been a weird, am I not dreaming or am I am kind of thing. But sometimes you have dreams where it's so close to your common daily activities. And I've had a few of those where it gets confusing. Like if you did put something in the refrigerator, if you thought you did something for work or around the house, and then you wake up and you're like, I thought I did this already. And like, what?
Absolutely. My mind just jumped to how I first started to have lucid dreams, which is also a really great technique. And that is working with false awakenings. Have you ever had a false awakening?
Oh, where you think you're waking up, but you're still in a
You
dream.
wake up, but you're still in a dream.
Yeah, the dream within a dream or meditating in a dream even is
Exactly.
common.
I used to get the false awakenings a lot when I was younger. I would wake up and start my day over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and it would drive me mad. And I thought I was going mad. I would wake up, get ready for school, have breakfast, take a shower in my backpack, walk into the bus, get on the bus, go to school, wake up, do it again and again and again and again
Yeah,
until I started to catch on to the fact that, wait a minute, I'm still asleep. I'm dreaming, and then becoming aware within a space in the mind that is essentially free from time, where all is possible, bound only by our imagination.
yeah. And I think I've also experienced that specifically more as a child than I have as an adult. So I think kids tend to have, I don't know if they're more of a natural at it or what.
Kids, it tends to happen to us when we are younger, much more. I hear this over and over again. Even myself, when I was younger, I wish I could go back in time and take the knowledge that I now have about the practice and put it in my younger body to have lucid dreams. I'd be having like 7 or 8 a night, opposed to now, maybe I'm lucky to have 7 or 8 throughout the month. Dreaming
Yeah.
is so much more enhanced when we are younger. Absolutely. I don't have false awakenings like I used to when I was younger. Also, when I was younger, so much sleep paralysis, and we can talk about that soon as well.
Yeah, well, that's still pretty common even in adults. I think they just handle it differently. But so I have a 5-year-old son. He talks about his dreams a lot with me, which is funny because I guess maybe he hears me talk about dreams, but I don't talk to him about dreams a lot directly with him. But he'll share his dreams with me. And I knew that he was astral projecting a year ago because he told me that at night when everyone's sleeping, he is a ghost and he could see him and his brother sleeping in their beds.
That's making me smile. Like a
I know.
genuine
I was like, oh, that's an astral
that
projection.
is so awesome. And yes, he is. He is projecting his consciousness, whether it is an internal projection or an external projection. We'll never really know that, but it definitely sounds like he's slipping
Yeah,
into the third state of
yeah,
consciousness.
he's a ghost at night. And I was
He's a
like,
ghost.
okay.
I love it. I would actually see ghosts at night when in sleep paralysis and borderline altered states. I've
Mhm.
seen so many scary things actually in sleep paralysis. Lots
I've
of great
had
things
just
as
one
well.
experience, yeah. And I did see an alien bug that tried to get into my window, and I pushed it out of the bedroom, and and I remember going back into my body to lay down, and then experiencing sleep paralysis. But I also was already very active with lucid dreaming and out of body experiences, so I already became pretty close with my guides at that point, so I asked them to help me, and then it immediately stopped. Like I heard them say, "It'll just take a second, and release. You'll feel a release," and I did. But it was weird. But I was very lucid, so as soon as it happened, I was like, "Okay, guys, help me."
Speaking of guides, they can absolutely help us with having lucid dreams. Whether you have actually met your dream guide or not, and individuals can have many. And in my opinion, these dream guides are different versions of the subconscious mind, really just manifestations of the subconscious mind that can help us and give us insights, and they can help us to become lucid, especially before bed, while sharpening your intentions. If you're focusing on meeting your dream guide so that they can help you become lucid. If you have that dream, you're very likely to become lucid.
Yeah. So we have another question by Michael, and it is it still lucid dreaming if you aren't really in control, just aware of being in a dream state?
Yes, absolutely, 100%. And there are different levels of lucidity. Control is not always there. There have been numerous times where I have been fully lucid. I am aware of the fact that I am dreaming, and yet I am lacking control. Maybe I can't fly. I run, I jump, I fall, I go up, I get stuck in power lines. I'm like, help, this isn't working. I fall, I jump up, I hit an invisible wall, fall, things like that. Fall and fall through the ground and get stuck in The Simpsons. Sometimes you just can't control what happens.
That's too funny. Yeah, I always say a lot of the time I'm not always wanting to be as very active or intentional with my dreams, but I know I'm dreaming and I just kind of allow the dreams to run its course while still being aware of it. It's a weird space, but it's sometimes you're tired and you don't want to control it.
Absolutely. Let's talk about control a little bit. Let's talk about how to have more success with dream control. Really, I feel like it lies in confidence, confidence in yourself and in your own abilities and in what you are about to be doing. Before implementing techniques like flying or creating a portal, for example, take time to set a strong mindset. Feel confident. Really take a moment to feel it brewing, feel your confidence growing, sharpen your intention, believe in yourself, visualize your success ahead of time, and then go about performing techniques opposed to just jumping right into techniques. If you take time to feel confident and develop a knowing that you're going to be successful and really believe in yourself, you're so much more likely to be successful with all techniques
Yeah,
and control.
I love that. Yeah, I have a client. He's been lucid dreaming pretty successfully since he was a child, and he can recreate a whole scene, build the dream scene he
Mhm.
chooses, and play it out however he wants. And he's really good at it. I mean, I'm not even that good, and I was like, damn, that's pretty good.
Amazing. I love it. It actually jogs my mind to talk about a technique for changing the dream scenario. When you are in a dream and you're lucid and maybe you want to be somewhere else. Like, for example, a lot of times when I have success with the roll out of bed exit technique, I'm in my room of my old home. Well, that's not very exciting. I want to be somewhere like on a tropical beach with a beautiful waterfall and an island filled with mystery and adventure. I don't want to be stuck in my room, for example, here. So, what you can do is get down to the ground in your dream and take your sight away. Stop looking at your current environment and try to just go down and try to take your sight away. Try to go into the darkness so that you can change the dream location. From that darkness can come a new location. So, what I have done in the past, while I get down on the floor of my room, I'm looking down at the ground, I'm trying to take my room away from me, is to tell myself that I will feel sand. I'm trying to feel my new surroundings where I want to be prior to actually seeing those surroundings. So I'm feeling around and I'm cultivating a strong belief that when I look back up and when I want to see again, that I will be in the location of my choosing.
Nice. I think we've talked about this before. You called it stabilizing the dream scene. With that,
The
right?
stabilizing, that's similar to stabilizing the dream scene,
Okay.
but dream stabilization is a little bit different, and let's definitely talk about that. Dream stabilization is really important after becoming lucid. If you can remember to do it, that's the trick, really. A trick to this whole practice, when it comes down to it, I suppose, it's just remembering to remember the right things in the right order. Just remember.
That's that is the trick, the whole dream
Actually,
thing.
that was actually a powerful affirmation for me for a while. Just remember, remember, remember. And I would put that in my dream journal over and over and over again.
I love that. That's a good one, and it takes skill. And then that's where it does feel like it's that movie where they're trying, they're going all over the place, changing the scene, finding themselves in loops, and trying to get out of the loop and create
Yep.
um, something
So,
more stable.
dream stabilization is for after we become lucid to make the dream more vivid, more clear, to raise your lucidity and just take time to think about what you want to do prior to doing it. So, some stabilization techniques would be to touch objects in the dream, pay attention to their textures and details. You can even rub your hands together, which is one of my favorite stabilization techniques, and try to focus on feeling a warm, frictiony sensation and pay attention to textures and details of your hands. Feel textures of objects around you. You could run your hand across your bed in the dream. Pick up an object and try to feel its weight interact with the dream. This will help ground you into the experience. And there is something about when we interact with our senses, physical, our taste, touch, smell, sight within the dream, which helps to improve the dream's vividness and our control, the overall quality of the dream. So take time to stabilize the dream with our stimuli, with our senses, by touching, by smelling, by seeing. I could yell out into the dream, Alexa, play music, and just listen to see if you can hear the music start to play. Or you could even reach into your pocket and expect and believe that you have a candy in there. pull out the candy and put it in your mouth. Pay attention to how it tastes. Can you smell it? I have a theory that when we do this within a dream, we are activating portions of the mind that regularly shut down for sleep in order to process such senses, taste, touch, smell, and sight. And when those portions of the brain turn back on, it's like it heightens the dream.
Well, that would make a lot of sense, really. Um, so another thing, so I've never practiced a lot of those details, but something I've experienced like at first, so when I first started going through my awakening, I've always been a lucid dreamer, intentionally or direct, but it's always been something that's there, right, since childhood. But I noticed when I started waking up to other conscious beings or aspects that were in my dreams, I was experiencing like negative entities. Um, and it would pop up randomly, but I always noticed that I would go from dream to dream to dream, or I'd skip scenes just to try to get away from them. And they, like, I noticed they'd follow me, but it was this idea that I would literally notice I was in a dream scene and I didn't like the vibe there. So I just wanted to exit. And it was like if it were like a camera roll, I was going
Wow.
through them almost, but not with a portal though. Like I never saw the actual portal. It's just like, okay, I'm done doing this and I want to go somewhere else. And it was just a matter of thought, but it just kind of happened very organically. And I don't do that so much anymore now because I don't have like this fear to leave the scene. But that was something I noticed. Also, another one, like, so, I sleep with my cell phone next to my bed, and sometimes it dings at night. And I usually have the volume down. But I've noticed that if I hear my phone dinging, which I don't think I'm actually hearing it, but I think my subconscious is still picking it up, and I will dream about the cell phone, and it tends to zap me into an astral projection in my dreams, and like I will tend to end up having a conversation or connecting with the person that ends up texting me, ironically.
I
So
love it.
it's
That's
kind of
actually
odd, but I've had that several times in the last year.
using cell phones in dreams is actually a pretty great way to summon dream characters. You don't even really need to know their phone number. You can just pretend that you know it, as you're punching it in, and then you just expect that they're going to be there, and you just kind of lead the conversation like, "Oh, hey, I know you said you were going to be here in a minute, but it's been like 5 minutes. Where are you?" And then you might get a response from the dream character, likely, "Oh, hey, I'm coming up the road now." And then you look, ah,
That's too funny. It gets very interesting. So, like, yeah, there is definitely a fine line between the lucidity and this out of body or astral projection. So, like, I know portals are quite common. And people like to talk about them a lot online. And I'm like, well, my cell phone makes a great portal.
definitely portals are really common and they're fun and they're very visually appealing. They look cool, especially when you're standing in front of one within your dream and it's swirling and there's energy all over the place and you're mesmerized by it. I also love to use portals for teleporting in my dreams, but they're finicky and they don't always take us to where we want to go and they don't always work. I have had success with them, yes. And also I have gone to walk through my portal and just be like I'm hitting a wall. Like literally just like, duh,
Like, that didn't work.
that didn't work. What I have noticed when it comes to using portals though, is that instead of you trying to walk through the portal, just set your belief and expectation that the portal is going to take you into it. And then stand in front of it and just keep jumping up and down until it kind of like gravity pulls you into the portal. That has
Yeah,
worked past.
it's interesting. And like, I love seeing it online because people are always have their own creative personal experiences with it. So it's always kind of unique. And I'm like, ah, that's so cool. Um, but yeah, so for me, I always noticed it was just more of a thought. And I never, well, at the time, I didn't know about the portal thing. So it wasn't something I was training myself to do. It was just happening. Um, so I've never been able to actually create a physical portal or a visual portal. It was more like Just okay, I'm done with this scene. I'm going to the next. And I'm not even predicting what the next scene is. I just know I'm done here and I'm
And
walking out.
the next scene is whatever it's gonna be.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's see, Chelsea. We have about 10 more minutes here. A couple more topics that we could certainly cover, like
Yeah.
dream flying techniques. That's a really great topic, and everybody loves to fly in their dreams. Before I dive into talking about that, though, I just wanted to ask you and get a better understanding of what you do to help people with your dream work practices.
Oh yeah. So my dream analysis sessions, I'm at this point, I call them a self-discovery and a soul discovery journey, because it does a bit of both. But coming with lucidity, I've noticed that I've used lucid dreaming in the past as a way as a self-discovery, um, being my own mechanic. So like something that always caught my attention is I've noticed that I have like DMT releases in my sleep, and they're kind of random, but it's something that really warps real strong where it's obvious. And so at one point I used lucid dreaming. So I'm getting off topic, but
I'm following.
I've used the lucid dreaming to explore my mechanics on how my brain works. And it comes off very symbolic. But so, like, one time I was looking at, I thought I was getting close to my pineal gland or something and exploring it in like lucid wise. And I realized it kind of led me back to my inner child. And she was the one who was kind of warping me.
I
So it
love
was
that.
the internal aspect of myself that was interfering with the dream states and kind of catching me off guard. But the cool thing with dream analysis is that it is a self-discovery, and we will break it down into what I call an internal family system. And we explore those internal parts and the symbolism. And each person's symbolism is different because it's whatever information you're bringing in, the brain
That makes
you will
complete sense.
use for symbolic purposes. So it gets quite fun and interesting. But
I
I
love
always
that.
say dreams, each dream is a small puzzle piece that builds a very large picture. And so when I do that, I tend to see that it's very much a lot of like bringing, so like when like Carl Jung and the internal family system, it's taking maybe some exiled aspects of ourselves that we deny consciously during the day, and they're showing up at night and they're making their space to be heard if you're aware of it or not.
I
um
totally get it. Yep,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so we do that. And see, when I first started doing all of that, I did it organically for myself because I was also journaling my dreams because they were just lucid and crazy and wild. And I was like, but when I started reading over my journal, I noticed it was one very large picture in a way, and that it had a lot of similar things going on, and that they were giving me messages for balance acts or wanting to bring more about within my own wholeness. But then I also was having metaphysical experiences too, like a lot, where I was working with my guides. At one point, I put the intention to want to meet God a couple years ago, and it came with three symbolic dreams. And then the fourth dream was very direct. And it was like I asked to project it to this like very bright light. And it was like, well, you wanted to find me, here I am. And it's like, seek and ye shall find kind of thing. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But that's why it gets a soul journey too. I've also had experiences like in this last year, and I know I've told you just privately, where I'm learning special abilities while I'm sleeping, but like, so I've been trying to use my third eye more, but I wasn't doing it intentionally. My guides, so I literally had them holding their hands on my eyes like this for several months, not every night, but just, and they were telling me, you have to learn how to use your third eye. And now I've noticed for months now, after like I don't have the hands on my eyes anymore making me do it, but now I literally feel like I'm staring at my ceiling while my eyes are closed. And I started doing that during the daytime more and bringing more intention to the practice, not just while I'm sleeping, but also while I'm awake and just closing my eyes and trying to practice seeing. And that's why I say I want a clock next to my bed, because I don't have a clock next to my bed. And I was like, it'd be good to have something where if I'm sitting there staring at my ceiling or at the wall, it'd be nice to have something that changes constantly so I could check to see, am I right with what I'm seeing? Because it's literally like I'm seeing with my eyes closed. But it was
That's happened to
trippy and
me
cool, and I've
many
never
times
stopped the
before.
experiences. I've allowed
There
them to
have
carry
been
on.
numerous times when I had been laying there in sleep paralysis, and it was like I could see through my closed eyelids, like I
Yeah,
was essentially seeing with a third eye. I could see
exactly.
a room. It's like my eyelids did not exist.
Yeah, and you know your eyes are closed too,
Yep.
and but you can see, and it's a different kind of visual, but it's still there. So, but I try not to, but I wanted to make sure it wasn't a muscle memory because obviously it's a ceiling, right? Or it's things that are always constant and visual. So I was like, well, having a clock there that's constantly changing would make it different and more interesting to confirm at least. But I
Absolutely.
do use that technique to try to practice in daytime and bring it not to just the sleep realm. But so I guess that I'm sorry, I got off topic because I'm still on the lucid dreaming. We could have
Absolutely.
another one of
All the
these
time.
group workshops where we
I was
explore
actually
more of the
thinking
self-discovery
about that
stuff.
because only so much can be said within an hour of time. This is a topic that I could talk about all day long, and then there's so much content. There are so many questions to be asked, and so many topics that we could potentially talk about in the
Yeah.
future. We covered a couple really great ones here today. Really, there are so much more. Before I wrap this up, I did want to talk about dream flight briefly because it's just so fun. It never gets boring. I have flown hundreds of times within my dreams, and every single time is just a really enjoyable experience, other than when I'm tangled in power lines or trees won't let me fly because they're being mean, or there are like crows that are attacking me, or I'm falling into the ground, or when I have dream control, flying's great. So let's talk about some flying techniques. One of my favorite techniques for flying is by running and jumping and putting one hand out in front of me like this. So I am lucid and I'm running. Oh, hi. I'll take a pause for a
No,
moment.
he
Bye.
just woke up, but we're at the end, so I'll let him hang out with us.
That is absolutely. I will just wrap this up soon. So, some different flying techniques. I like the run and jump technique to get airborne. And then when you're running and before you jump, you put your hand like this out in front of you. And then as you jump, you point up with your hand, which is a strong signal to your subconscious mind to go up. So a simple run and a jump while pointing up with your hand can get you airborne. And that's one of my favorite ways to do so. But of course, you can also flap your arms like a bird. I notice that takes you up kind of slow though.
It
You
doesn't
go up a
work as
little
well.
bit and down a little bit. You'll go up a little bit and come down a little bit. It does not work as well as with running and jumping and pointing and using your hand really as almost like a steering wheel, a guide, a pointer. You can point in any direction that you want to go, up, down, left, right. And while pointing and steering, you can also yell out loud to yourself things like 10% faster, 50% faster, 100% faster, 1,000% faster until you're like
Supersonic speed.
it's like light speed. And then, of course, you can say and think to yourself 50% slower as you start to slow down, maybe for landing. You could also fly, Superman style, or with your hands down by your waist. There are so many different techniques for flying. A little tip for landing, though, something that I have noticed is a fanning down motion to go down to the ground like this will bring you down a little slow, gradually, and you'll get back down to the ground.
Yeah. No, I love this. So something I would like to do in the future, if we continue doing more workshops, we can hit way a lot more topics. And
So many
I
more.
don't want to add any more dream analysis to this because the lucid part was just so good. I think focusing on that was like awesome. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So do you want to share your website and I can share mine, we'll share some details and information if people want to connect with us because you do lucid dreaming coaching.
Absolutely. I do. I do lucid dreaming coaching. Yes, and I have a variety of different content across different platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, website, all that good stuff.
Mhm.
And if anybody wants to check that out, they can go to my landing page, which is flowpage.com/Jeffrey Randle. And you can find that link pretty much at the top of all of my platforms. Like, for example, if you go to Facebook, right at the top of the link, you'll see it there, flowpage.com/Jeffrey Randle. From there,
Love
you can access everything that I have going on in the digital space.
love that. And for me, anyone watching, I do the dream analysis portions. And you can find me at ChelseyTurpeningCoxsey.com. I just say it's a wormhole of information, basically. So you can find me on all kinds of outlets from there. And I'll share the link whenever I share this video because I'm gonna post this on YouTube probably too, which I'm sure you will too. So
I
we'll
was
have it
recommending
kind of in
that. Yeah.
various places, yeah. Um, and we do plan
Awesome,
on doing
Chelsea.
more workshops. This is a great
This was
combination for
a
us
lot of
both,
fun.
really.
Absolutely. Even next time, we could even likely have another individual or two. We can bounce around. The more the merrier with these. Really, I'm sure that there are lots of other creators out there in our niche that would be happy to hop on here for a call with us.
I agree. It's a good
I'll
topic. And I think,
definitely down the
you
date.
know, I always tell people don't worry if you feel like you don't remember enough dreams because as soon as you start to put focus on your dreams, it's going to come pouring out like a waterfall. And
That's exactly right. Yep.
yeah. So,
It was
um,
really great. I had a lot of fun, and thank you so much for having me. We will plan another workshop and we will plan topics to talk about that we did not already talk about in this one, just to keep it interesting. We'll plan all new topics. I'll make a
yeah,
little note of the topics we covered here. So then the next workshop, it'll be different.
no, I agree. I thought this would be a good like first step leading into it. So I think we definitely covered a lot of the good basics moving into it. What is lucid
Covered
dreaming?
a lot of basics, and we also covered also some more advanced stuff too. So this was a little bit of a combination of beginner, intermediate, and some advanced
It's
all
a
in
little
one.
bit
So
for
it's all
everybody.
good. A little bit for everybody.
I love
Exactly.
it.
Well, thank you so much, Chelsea, and thank you for everybody who's watching right now. It was a lot of fun. And until next time, I'm going to go settle down for the evening, get away from all of these artificial LED blue light, and just take a little bit of time for my own thoughts.
Yes, agreed. I
Dropping
got a
any
little one
tension.
awake now too, so I gotta
Yep.
coax him back to sleep. So I'm glad we met up, and I hope everyone has a great evening, and I look forward to doing this again here soon.
Me too. It was really great. Thank you, Chelsea.
All right, bye.
Bye for now.